I'd been working at Henderson and Associates for 8 months and had perfected the art of being invisible. Cubicle 47B, second row from the window, close enough to natural light but far enough from the break room chaos. Perfect for someone who preferred spreadsheets to small talk. Then they hired Alex Chun for the graphic design department. First day he walked in, I was refilling my coffee mug when he passed by the break room. Our eyes met for maybe 3 seconds through the glass partition. He had this slight smile like he was about to say something funny, and I completely forgot how to operate the coffee machine. Stood there staring as he disappeared around the corner. Earth to Maya, Jessica from accounting laughed. You okay? I was definitely not okay. Alex had dark hair that looked deliberately messy, wore these vintage band t-shirts under blazers that somehow looked professional, and had the kind of quiet confidence that made everyone in the office gravitate toward him. For 2 weeks we existed in parallel orbits. I'd catch glimpses of him in meetings, hear his laugh from across the floor, but never found an excuse to actually talk to him. He worked on creative campaigns while I crunched numbers and analyzed market data. Different worlds. Then came the quarterly client dinner at Romano's downtown. Fancy Italian place with white tablecloths and waiters who made you feel underdressed, even in your best outfit. I'd worn my one good dress navy blue, conservative enough for work but fitted enough to feel confident. The dinner was going well. Our biggest client, Mr. Patterson from Patterson Industries, seemed pleased with our quarterly results. I was sitting between my boss Linda and Patterson's marketing VP, discussing projected growth rates, when I spotted Alex 3 seats down, sketching something on his napkin while the client talked. During dessert, I excused myself to the restroom. The restaurant was dimly lit with those tiny candles on every table, and I was navigating between chairs when it happened. A waiter carrying a full tray of coffee cups for the table behind us took a step back just as I was passing. We collided perfectly, his tray tilted, and hot coffee went everywhere. All over my dress, my shoes, the floor, creating this massive puddle of espresso and embarrassment. The entire restaurant went quiet. 40 business professionals in expensive suits staring at the clumsy girl covered in coffee. My dress was soaked through, sticking to me in the most unflattering way possible. I could feel my face burning with humiliation. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, the waiter was saying, grabbing napkins, but the damage was done. That's when Alex appeared beside me. Hey, he said quietly, slipping off his blazer. Arms up. Before I could protest, he wrapped his jacket around my shoulders. It smelled like cedar and something else, maybe his cologne or just him. The blazer was warm and covered the worst of the coffee stains. Much better, he said, adjusting the collar. Now you just look like you're making a fashion statement. I laughed despite myself. A very wet fashion statement. The best kind. He guided me toward the restaurant's side exit, away from all the staring faces. There's a 24-hour pharmacy 2 blocks down. They sell basic clothes. Want to escape this circus? I nodded, not trusting my voice. We slipped out while everyone was distracted by the cleanup. The cool evening air hit my coffee-damp skin, but Alex's blazer kept me warm. He walked beside me, hands in his pockets, completely unfazed by the fact that he was now in just a t-shirt and dress pants. Thank you, I finally managed. You didn't have to do that. Do what? Save you from explaining to Patterson why you look like you wrestled with a barista. Exactly that. The pharmacy was one of those bright, fluorescent places that sold everything from toothpaste to tourist t-shirts. Alex waited outside while I found a simple black dress that almost fit and changed in their tiny bathroom. When I emerged, he was leaning against the storefront, scrolling through his phone. Better? I asked. He looked up, and that same slight smile from the break room appeared. Much. Though I have to say, the coffee-stained look was growing on me. We started walking back toward the restaurant, but slowly, like neither of us was eager to return to the corporate dinner. I'm Maya, by the way. From marketing. I know who you are. He stopped walking. I've been trying to figure out how to talk to you for 2 weeks. Really? Really? I was going to ask if you wanted to grab coffee sometime, but given tonight's events, maybe that's not the best beverage choice. I laughed, surprising myself. I think I can handle coffee, as long as it's in a cup and not on my dress. Deal. He smiled. How about tomorrow? There's this place near the office that serves excellent non-spillable coffee. We exchanged numbers right there on the sidewalk, the restaurant glowing behind us like a scene from a movie. When we finally returned to the dinner, most people had forgotten about the coffee incident. Mr. Patterson even complimented my quick thinking in changing outfits. But the best part was Alex's blazer draped over my chair, smelling like cedar and possibilities. 6 months later, we're still together. And yes, we go to that coffee place every Saturday morning. I've never spilled a single drop, but I still wear Alex's blazers sometimes, just because they make me feel safe.
The thing about lying to your parents is that it starts small. 1 missed class becomes 2, 2 becomes a week, and before you know it, you're performing fake karate moves in your living room like some kind of fraud. Started when I was 14. Dad enrolled me in Sensei Martial Arts Academy because he thought I needed discipline. Boys your age need structure, he'd say, flexing his own muscles from his army days. Martial arts will make you a man. For the first 6 months, I was actually good at it. I'd come home sweaty and excited, demonstrating the new kicks and punches I'd learned. Dad would sit in his armchair, nodding approvingly as I showed him my horse stance or practiced my blocks. Mom would peek in from the kitchen, smiling at her little warrior. Today we learned the roundhouse kick, Papa. I'd announce, executing it carefully in our small living room, making sure not to hit the coffee table. Dad would critique my form, suggesting I keep my guard up or pivot more on my supporting foot. Those were good times. I felt like I was making them proud. But then high school hit differently. New friends, new interests. There was this group of guys who'd hang out at the gaming cafe after school, playing Counter-Strike and talking about girls. They thought martial arts was uncool, something for kids or old people. Why learn to fight when you can frag people online? They'd joke. Slowly I started skipping classes, just once a week at first. I'd tell Sensei Kumar I was sick or had family obligations. Then it became twice a week. Then I stopped going altogether. But here's the thing, I was paying for classes with Dad's money and he expected results. He expected demonstrations. He expected progress, so I started making things up. I'd watch YouTube videos of martial arts techniques for 5 minutes, then come home and perform them for my parents. Today we learned this advanced combination. I'd say throwing together random moves I'd seen in action movies. I'd make up names for techniques, tiger's claw defense or dragon's spiral kick. And Dad would nod seriously, impressed by how creative Sensei Kumar's teaching methods were. The lies became more elaborate. I'd come home with fake stories about sparring matches I'd won, tournaments the school was preparing for, belt tests I was supposedly training for. I even bought a yellow belt online and told them I'd been promoted. "Show me the certificate," Dad said. Sensei Kumar said he'd mail it to us. I lied smoothly. Mom was so proud. She called my aunties to brag about her son, the martial artist. She started buying me protein powder and workout clothes. Dad began talking about how martial arts were building my character, how much more confident and disciplined I seemed. The guilt was eating me alive, but I was in too deep to stop. Every fake demonstration felt like digging my grave deeper. I'd practice moves from Jackie Chan movies in my bedroom, trying to make them look authentic enough to fool parents who'd never taken a martial arts class in their lives. For 3 months I kept this up. 3 months of lies, fake techniques, and stolen money. I got so good at the deception that I almost believed it myself. I'd watch myself in the mirror throwing fake punches and think, maybe I am learning something. Then came Parent-Teacher Day at the Martial Arts Academy. I had completely forgotten. Sensei Kumar had mentioned it weeks ago, back when I was still attending classes regularly. Parents were invited to watch a demonstration, meet the instructor, discuss their children's progress. I was at the gaming cafe deep in a Counter-Strike match when my phone started buzzing. Text after text from Dad. "Where are you? We're at the academy. Sensei Kumar says you haven't been to class in 2 months. Come home. Now." My stomach dropped to my feet. Game over. Literally. The walk home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I kept trying to think of excuses, explanations, anything that might soften the blow. Maybe I could say I'd been going to a different academy? Maybe I could claim Sensei Kumar was mistaken? But when I walked through our front door, Dad and Mom were sitting at the dining table with my unused karate uniform laid out between them like evidence at a crime scene. "Sit down," Dad said quietly. His voice was scarier than if he'd been yelling. Mom's eyes were red. She'd been crying. That hurt worse than any punishment they could give me. 3 months, Dad said slowly. 3 months you've been lying to us, taking our money, making fools of us. I tried to explain about peer pressure, about feeling embarrassed, about how I'd gotten trapped in the lie. But every word sounded pathetic even to me. "The worst part," Mom said, her voice shaking, "is that we were so proud. We bragged about you to everyone. Uncle Raj, the neighbors, your teachers. We told them our son was becoming a martial artist. And all those techniques you showed us?" Dad asked. "All those lessons you demonstrated?" "YouTube," I whispered. "And action movies." The silence that followed was deafening. Dad made me return the yellow belt I'd bought. He called Sensei Kumar to apologize and ask if I could re-enroll, starting from the beginning. The sensei agreed, but only if I wrote a letter of apology to the entire class for wasting everyone's time. The punishment wasn't the worst part. The worst part was rebuilding trust. 4 months afterward, Dad would randomly ask me to show him what I'd learned in class, then verify it by calling Sensei Kumar. Mom stopped bragging about me to relatives. They started treating me like a flight risk, someone who couldn't be trusted to tell the truth about basic things. I did go back to martial arts eventually. Started over as a white belt, surrounded by kids 3 years younger than me. It was humiliating, but I deserved it. And you know what? I actually learned to love it properly this time. Without the pressure of impressing anyone, without the fear of disappointing parents who had unrealistic expectations. 2 years later, I earned my yellow belt for real. When I showed Dad the certificate, the real one signed by Sensei Kumar, he just nodded and said, "Good. Now keep going." We never talked about the 3 months of lies again. But every time I demonstrated a new technique, I could see him watching carefully, comparing it to the fake moves I'd shown him before. Trust, once broken, never quite fits back together the same way. The irony is that martial arts really did teach me discipline, just not the kind Dad expected. It taught me that there are no shortcuts to real achievement, no YouTube videos that can replace actual practice, and no lies smooth enough to cover up the truth forever. Sometimes the hardest person to fight is yourself.